Welcome, brothers and sisters. Today, an extra Orange Book live book reading. Um, Today, we are going to start with a new journey called the Planetary Rebellion and the Caligastia betrayal and the outbreak of rebellion, as well as the 7 crucial years. So let us dive into this topic and see what the Orange Book itself is telling us about this planetary rebellion. Let us see what the universe helpers and messengers and celestials are giving us as information. All right, let us go to screen share, and there we go. All right. We are still in the third book of the Orange Book, which is all about the history of Urantia. As you can see, we are at paper 67, the Planetary Rebellion, and I get the instructions of the Father how to do these live book readings and which topics to take. Okay, let us dive into the introduction. The problems associated with human existence on Urantia are impossible of understanding without a knowledge of certain great epochs of the past, notably the occurrence and consequences of the planetary rebellion, although this upheaval did not seriously interfere with the progress of organic evolution. It did markedly modify the course of social evolution and of spiritual development. The entire superficial history of the planet was profoundly influenced by this devastating calamity. And it's all about the superphysical history. All right, the first subchapter, or as they also call it, section 1, the Caligastia betrayal. For 300,000 years, Caligastia had been in charge of Urantia when Satan, Lucifer's assistant, made one of his periodic inspection calls. And when Satan arrived on the planet, his appearance in no way resembled your caricatures of his nefarious majesty. He was and still is a Lanonandek, son of great brilliance. And no marvel, for Satan himself is a brilliant creature of light. Well, he is now in prison, in a prison world or prison satellite. In the course of this inspection, Satan informed Caligastia of Lucifer's then proposed Declaration of Liberty. And as we now know, the prince agreed to betray the planet upon the announcement of the rebellion. The loyal universe personalities look with peculiar disdain upon Prince Caligastia because of this premeditated betrayal of trust. The Creator's Son voiced this contempt when he said, "You are like your leader, Lucifer, and you have sinfully perpetuated his iniquity. He was a falsifier from the beginning of his self-exaltation because he abode not in the truth. In all the administrative work of a local universe, no high trust is deemed more sacred than that reposed in a planetary prince who assumes responsibility for the welfare and guidance of the evolving mortals on a newly inhabited world. And of all forms of evil, none are more destructive of personality status than betrayal of trust and disloyalty to one's confiding friends. In committing this deliberate sin, Caligastya so completely distorted his personality that his mind has never since been able fully to regain its equilibrium. There are many ways of looking at sin, but from the universe philosophic viewpoint, sin is the attitude of a personality who is knowingly resisting cosmic reality. Error might be regarded as a misconception or distortion of reality. Evil is a partial realization of or maladjustment to universe realities. But sin is a purposeful resistance to divine reality, a conscious choosing to oppose spiritual progress, while iniquity consists in an open and persistent defiance of recognized reality and signifies such a degree of personality disintegration as to border on cosmic insanity. Error suggests lack of intellectual keenness, evil deficiency of wisdom, sin, abject spiritual poverty, but iniquity is indicative of vanishing personality control. And when sin has so many times been chosen and so often been repeated, it may become habitual. Habitual sinners can easily become iniquitous, become wholehearted rebels against the universe and all of its divine realities. While all manner of sins may be forgiven, we doubt whether the established iniquitor would ever sincerely experience sorrow for his misdeeds or accept forgiveness for his sins. And lovely brothers and sisters, let us look at today's world. We see nothing more than just rebellion that is still going on by those who try to control and manipulate the rest of us. These people who call themselves world leaders or a leader of countries such as China, Russia, and all the other countries, all leaders in this world are in rebellion against the universe and thus against the creator and source of the living light and life, also known as the Universal Father, or for many, still known as God, the Heavenly Father. Please open up your eyes and see that um, if you vote on these people, you are in actuality a rebellion too. And you are practicing rebellion too because you are voting on people that are completely against God and thus against the universe. You are voting and participating in their sinful deeds. You are participating and voting to promote their sin. So let this information come deeply into your heart and mind. So this is one of the reasons why I do what I am doing, and I already have presented a video in the video section of this channel about the Planetary Rebellion. But the Heavenly Father asked me to start doing these live Urantia book readings to bring these topics again under your attention. All right, let us continue. And I also want to say each one of us needs to understand what sin is. And again, I repeat, sin is a personal choice to deliberately rebel against God. And this is something you need to really understand. And that is why we still see so many fellow brothers and sisters continuing in practicing sin. And this also gives the understanding that Jesus never could set us free from sin, because again, sin is a personal choice to rebel against God. Okay, section 2, the outbreak of rebellion. Shortly after Satan's inspection, and when the planetary administration was on the eve of the realization of great things on Urantia, one day, midwinter of the northern continents, Caligastya held a prolonged conference with his associate Daligastya, after which the latter called the 10 councils of Urantia in session extraordinary. This assembly was opened with the statement that Prince Caligastya was about to proclaim himself absolute sovereign of Urantia, and demanded that all administrative groups abdicate by resigning all of their functions and powers into the hands of Daligastya as trustee, pending the reorganization of the planetary government and the subsequent redistribution of these offices of administrative authority. The presentation of this astounding demand was followed by the masterly appeal of Van, chairman of the Supreme Council of Coordination. This distinguished administrator and able jurist branded the proposed course of Caligastya as an act bordering on planetary rebellion, and appealed to his conferees to abstain from all participation until an appeal could be taken to Lucifer, the system sovereign of Satania, and he won the support of the entire staff. Accordingly, appeal was taken to Jerusalem, and forthwith came back the orders designating Caligastya as supreme sovereign on Urantia and commanding absolute and unquestioning allegiance to his mandates. And it was in reply to this amazing message that the noble Van made his memorable address of 7 hours length, in which he formally drew his indictment of Daligastya, Caligastya, and Lucifer as standing in contempt of the sovereignty of the universe of Nebadon, and he appealed to the Most Highs of Edentia for support and confirmation. Meantime, the system circuits had been severed. Urantia was isolated. Every group of celestial life on the planet found itself suddenly and without warning isolated, utterly cut off from all outside counsel and advice. Daligastya formally proclaimed Kaligastya god of Urantia and supreme over all. With this proclamation before them, the issues were clearly drawn, and each group drew off by itself and began deliberations, discussions destined eventually to determine the fate of every superhuman personality on the planet. Seraphim and cherubim and other celestial beings were involved in the decisions of this bitter, bitter struggle, this long and sinful conflict. Many superhuman groups that chanced to be on Urantia at the time of its isolation were detained here, and like the seraphim and their associates, were compelled to choose between sin and righteousness, between the ways of Lucifer and the will of the unseen Father. For more than 7 years, this struggle continued, not until every personality concerned had made a final decision. Would or did the authorities of Edensia interfere or intervene? Not until then did Van and his loyal associates receive vindication and release from their prolonged anxiety and intolerable suspense. Section 3. The 7 crucial years. The outbreak of rebellion on Jerusalem, the capital of Satania, was broadcast by the Melchizedek Council. The emergency Melchizedeks were immediately dispatched to Jerusalem, and Gabriel volunteered to act as the representative of the Creator's Son, whose authority had been challenged. With this broadcast of the fact of rebellion in Satania, the system was isolated, quarantined from her sister systems. There was so-called, in quotation marks, war in heaven, the headquarters of Satania, and it spread to every planet in the local system. On Urantia, 40 members of the corporal staff of 100, including Van, refused to join the insurrection. Many of the staff's human assistants, modified and otherwise, were also brave and noble defenders of Michael and his universe government. There was a terrible loss of personalities among seraphim and cherubim. Almost one half of the administrator and transition seraphim assigned to the planet joined their leader and Daligastia in support of the cause of Lucifer. 40,119 of the primary midway creatures joined hands with Caligustia, but the remainder of these beings remained true to their trust. The traitorous prince marshaled the disloyal midway creatures and other groups of rebel personalities and organized them to execute his bidding, while Van assembled the loyal midwayers and other faithful groups and began the great battle for the salvation or rehabilitation, because that is also what salvation is, of the planetary staff and other marooned celestial personalities. Salvation has many meanings, and one of them is rehabilitation. During the times of this struggle, the Loyalists dwelt in an unwalled and poorly protected settlement a few miles to the east of Dalmatia, but their dwellings were guarded day and night by the alert and ever watchful loyal Midway creatures, and they had possession of the priceless Tree of Life. Upon the outbreak of rebellion, loyal cherubim and seraphim, with the aid of three faithful midwayers, assumed the custody of the tree of life, and permitted only the 40 loyalists of the staff and their associated modified mortals to partake of the fruit and leaves of this energy plant. There were 56 of these modified Endonite associates of the staff, 16 of the Endonite attendants of the disloyal staff refusing to go into rebellion with their masters. Throughout the 7 crucial years of the Caligastia rebellion, Van was wholly devoted to the work of ministry to his loyal army of men, midwayers, and angels. The spiritual insight and moral steadfastness which enabled Van to maintain such an unshakable attitude of loyalty to the universe government was the product of clear thinking, wise reasoning, logical judgment, sincere motivation, unselfish purpose, intelligent loyalty, experiential memory, disciplined character, and the unquestioning dedication of his personality to the doing of the will of the Father in paradise. This 7 years of waiting was a time of heart searching and soul discipline. Such crises in the affairs of a universe demonstrate the tremendous influence of mind as a factor in spiritual choosing. Education, training, and experience are factors in most of the vital decisions of all evolutionary moral creatures. But it is entirely possible for the indwelling spirit to make direct contact with the decision determining powers of the human personality so as to empower the fully consecrated will of the creature to perform amazing acts of loyal devotion to the will and the way of the Father in paradise. And this is just what occurred in the experience of Amadon, the modified human associate of Van. Amadon is the outstanding human hero of the Lucifer Rebellion. This male descendant of Andon and Fonta was one of the 100 who contributed life blossom to the prince's staff, and ever since that event he had been attached to Van as his associate and human assistant. Amadon elected to stand with his chief throughout the long and trying struggle, and it was an inspiring sight to behold this child of the evolutionary races standing unmoved by the sophistries of Daligastia, while throughout the 7 year struggle he and his loyal associates resisted with unyielding fortitude all of the deceptive teachings of the brilliant Caligastia. Caligastya, with a maximum of intelligence and a vast experience in universe affairs, went astray, embraced sin. And this is exactly what we see nowadays continue. All the world leaders have embraced sin and are still rebellious to God and to the universe. Lovely brothers and sisters, we are still dealing with rebellion. And so this is why I am presenting this topic again. Amadon, with a minimum of intelligence and utterly devoid of universe experience, remained steadfast in the service of the universe and in loyalty to his associate. Van utilized both mind and spirit in a magnificent and effective combination of intellectual determination and spiritual insight, thereby achieving an experiential level of personality realization of the highest attainable order. Mind and spirit, when fully united, are potential for the creation of superhuman values, even Morantia realities. Morantia means spirit or spiritual realities. There is no end to the recital of the stirring events of these tragic days, but at last the final decision of the lost personality was made, and then, but only then, did a Most High of Edentia arrive with the emergency Melchizedek's to seize authority on Urantia. The Caligastya panoramic reign records on Jerusalem were obliterated, and the probationary era of planetary rehabilitation was inaugurated. So we are in, as a matter of fact, in a rehabilitation still. And we can see nowadays that all these world leaders from each and every country in this world are in a conglomeration with one and another to rebel for the last time against this universe and against God. And so each human that is voting on these people or voting on those people whom are assisting these world leaders in their rebellious plans against this universe and against God for a last time, all humans that are voting on these people and are voting on their assistants, known as politicians, you are participating in their rebellion. And know this. Now you get this information, and so you can make a conscious choice for yourself to step out of this participation and turn your back against them. These people are trying for a last time to defeat God and this universe. And of course, they will not succeed. But they are now misusing and abusing technology and artificial intelligence for their plans. With this, I am giving a warning in which it has been stated that artificial intelligences is not created for human benefits, but is created as a tool for the war, the rebellious war that the world leaders are um, promoting and are instigating against this universe and against God. They do a last attempt to defeat God and to defeat this universe. They use artificial intelligence for this, and they use all available technologies for this. And so they are using also each and every human being for their rebellious agendas. All these agendas based on so-called saving Earth are nothing more than a brilliantly disguised tool and agendas to lure as many as possible human beings into their last rebellious act. And these agendas of saving planet Earth are nothing more than plans of total destruction of God's entire creation. And so also based on total destruction of all life forms on this planet. So be very careful in using technology and be conscious in where you are using technology for. Be very careful in using artificial intelligences and know it is not what you think it is. It is a creation that is based on antagonisticness and is completely anti-life. It is programmed with all available assumptions and answers collected from the human collective. Know that the coming years will become the most toughest for many of us. Know that your life shall become far more expensive for this rebellion plan of all world leaders and all politicians involved in this rebellious plan against God and against this universe. Your bills will rise tremendously and skyrocketing. Why is it that no human is thinking about the rise of all these data centers combined with the electrician not outbreak, but what is happening and what is happening in Spain, France, Portugal, that all of a sudden electricity falls out. This is all because of the data centers that are usurping all the electricity and water. People, my beloved fellow brothers and sisters, you need to wake up, and you need to wake up fast. You need to come to the understanding that all these data centers are only there to collect each and every form of data that they can misuse in the war that they have instigated against God and against this universe. So it's about time that you are coming to conscious decision in how and how far you want to go in your participation in these rebellious plans of all these world leaders and participating politicians or ministers. And this is just um, a warning in the hope that many brothers and sisters will finally come to a conscious decision in how to live their life and in what to participate in. And that is why I present again this topic about the planetary rebellion, which is not seen by many people. I know why, because not many people are open to embrace this information that can only help to give a deeper understanding of why the things are still going on as they are going on. So, with this said, I have come to the end of this second live book reading today, which is an extra live Urantia book reading. And I have come to the end